Just know that things change. If you're going through a difficult time now, nothing is forever. Like if I had been really down after my mother's death or even after my accident and given up, if you just wait, things will change. Nothing stays forever.
Welcome to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Rinaldi. This is a space to explore the full spectrum of grief, from the kind that comes with death to the kind that shows up in life's many transitions. Through stories and conversations, we remind each other that we're not alone. Your journey matters, and here we're figuring it out together. Let's dive right in to today's episode. Let's start with a quick disclaimer. This podcast includes personal stories and perspectives on topics like grief, health, and mental wellness. The views expressed by guests are their own and may reflect individual experiences that are not meant as medical advice. As the host, I hold space for diverse voices, but that does not mean I endorse every viewpoint shared. Please listen with care and take what resonates with you. Hello. Today I want to introduce you to Karen Olson. She is the founder and CEO emeritus of Family Promise, and she is the author of Meant for More. And she is going to be sharing with us a lot about her own journey and how she ended up really founding this organization that helps thousands of families and people that have experienced homelessness. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Kendra. It's wonderful to be here.
I am glad you are here. And this is such an important conversation because I think a lot of times the homeless community is sometimes seen like disenfranchised, I think, from society a lot of times. Like we don't engage that much, I think, as a society with a lot of times with people in the homeless community. So it's so good to have organizations that really support the people
Mhm.
that have no home and to be able to have these conversations. And I love that you not only support the people that are experiencing homelessness, but also just the families around the people themselves.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. I'm looking forward to getting to know more about that. But I first want to get to know you. So if you don't mind sharing where you grew up and where do you live now? Let's start with that part of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in what was like an idyllic community for children. I grew up in Darien, Connecticut, and it was located right on the Sound. So the water was right there, and I would swim every day. And I had friends, and we would play until it got dark. So that's where I grew up. And I'm living now in Summit, New Jersey. And that's a wonderful community. I wouldn't have been able to start my organization if I felt like if I was in any other place because they were so supportive of me and rallied around and helped me.
To
So
create it. What year did you found Family Promise? What year did you found them?
1986,
1986. And it's now there's like 200 affiliates of the
close to 200 affiliates, and we've helped over 1 million men, women, and children. Yeah.
that is
I
amazing.
and I'll tell you that came out of grief and hurting, and what that instilled in me is I knew what hurt was, and I didn't want anyone else to hurt. And so, um, well, I could go into different parts of my story.
Please share because you did experience the sudden and tragic death of your mother
Mhm.
to suicide, and I don't know if that it played a part in your whole journey. So if you want
Most
to share,
definitely.
okay, please share about that.
Okay, well, I was very, very close to my mother. My dad was an alcoholic. My mother was depressed. When I would come home from school, I would see her crying over the sink. And, there weren't psychiatrists then, or if they were, there were psychiatrists, but nobody recommended a psychiatrist for my mother. And she just got more and more depressed. And one day on Monday morning, where our housekeeper would come on Mondays to clean the house, um, and she would arrive at 8 o'clock. So I left a little before then to catch the bus. And when I left, she kept waving at the window and waving. And I would turn around. And normally when I would turn around, she would, not be there. But this time she kept, every time I turned around, she was there waving, waving, waving. But I had no idea until I got to class and we had lunch in our homerooms. And Mr. Luce, who was the Latin teacher, was supervising the lunch. And so I ate my lunch. I always brought my lunch because I didn't like the food at school, at cafeteria. But I ate the lunch and then I would have an ice cream sandwich. And so I got the ice cream sandwich and I was ready to eat it because I had finished my lunch. At the same time, I saw somebody from the office come in and whisper something in Mr. Luce's ear. And so when I finished my lunch, I was about to start on my sandwich, my ice cream sandwich. And he said, Karen, you're wanted in the office. When you finish your lunch, go there and see what they want. So I immediately got up because I didn't know what it was about. I've never been called to the office. And he said, no, you finish your lunch. So I had to gulp down the ice cream sandwich when I really didn't want to. And so then once I finished that, I could go to the office. And one of the office secretaries said, we got a call from home and they want you to come home. And that's all she said. So she drove me home and she was nervous as she was trying to fill the space in the car, talking to me and talking to me. And when I got home, my grandmother, Gaga is what I called her, was there from New York City. Well, she had left that morning and I figured, why is she back there? And she just said, when I got out, she said, Mommy had a nervous breakdown and but everything will be okay. So I didn't think much of it because it seemed like a lot of women in Darien had nervous breakdowns. But she it was more than that. So and then I learned that she had tried to commit suicide, and the next thing I knew, my father said to me, he stood in front of me and he said, Mommy died. And I just started pounding his chest and everything. He didn't sit down or put his arm around me or anything. He just said, Mommy died. And so I pounded his chest and he said, Stop it, stop it, stop it. And then he gave me a pill. He said, the doctor said to take this. And so I took the pill, which knocked me out completely for it seemed like a long time. And then, no one mentioned my mother or her death after that. My grandmother did. That's my mother's mother, but not my father or not even family members. Or we had the funeral, but then after that, it was like she didn't exist, but she existed in my mind and my heart. And so every night I would go to sleep hugging a toy cat that one of my father's friends had given me. And it had a rubbery, smiley face. And within a few short months, my tears washed away the smiley face. And so it was very hard. My grandmother I could talk to, but really nobody else. My friends, didn't say anything. It was just, I guess people were scared they didn't know what to say, I suppose.
Very lonely. And especially, were you the only child?
No, I had a sister who was two,
2 years old? And you were how old at that point? You were still in elementary
12.
as well? You were 12?
I was
So
12.
12 and a 2-year-old. And
Right.
then your grandmother didn't live near you. She lived in New York. You had your dad who was an alcoholic. So did you become a caretaker also to your sister at that age too?
Well, in many ways, but we hired a housekeeper who turned out to be very good for my sister. Not for me, but she was well cared for. And so, but I would go into, well, I remember one time when I asked Charlotte, as a housekeeper, could I come in your room and watch TV? Because I was lonely. And so she pulled back a straight back chair from the dining room, which was really uncomfortable. She put it there, and I said, could I lie on your bed? And she said, I don't want anyone wallowing on my bed. And so all she did was have a straight back chair. So I left and went in the living room and sat on the sofa where I sat with my mother watching TV. And yeah, it was lonely.
Very
It was very
lonely.
lonely.
As you're saying this, I recall one of the guests that I had, her dad died when she was 10, and Randy is her name. She would say about like being a little griever, these
Mhm.
little, because this is like that grief that you carry, that you experienced when you were a child, that still continues to carry on with you as an adult. And as I'm hearing these stories and you relating to this, it's as if I'm transported to seeing you as this 12-year-old girl going through this. The little griever in you is still within you in this experience. And especially in the time that you experienced that and in the home that you experienced that your grief was not acknowledged or even mentioned and you were just alone. You had to find ways of grieving on your own. So your one was the toy that you would hold. One was sitting in the same place then that you would sit with your mom as acknowledging. What other tools or what other ways did you find of being able to express your grief or feel supported in your grief when those around you weren't acknowledging it?
It was really only through my grandmother I would go to New York City every weekend, and it was there that I felt that she really listened to me. But not at home, not the housekeeper, which would have been possible, I suppose. But I don't know how her whole attention was devoted to Carol, my sister, which was good. It was good for Carol. Um, but no, I didn't really have anyone except my grandmother. But I don't think that's uncommon. Sometimes when somebody dies, especially suicide, they don't talk about it. After a
Yeah.
couple of weeks, I went and skated on the pond down low with all my friends, and no one said anything. Um, so it was okay with me though. It was all right.
To have some moments of quote unquote normalcy was okay for you to kind of feel like they weren't bringing it up, that your friends weren't bringing it up. It was
Yeah,
okay for you.
yeah, it was okay.
So this is you
But
as a 12-year-old experiencing this trauma of not having your
mhm,
mom. And how did that then shape who you are now and your whole journey of then in 1986 founding
yeah,
Family
I can
Promise?
tell you. Well, before my mother died, I had hopes of being a figure skater and going to the Olympics, and I wanted to be, and I was also a good swimmer, so I wanted to be like Sonia Henney, um, or Esther Williams. And I had a happy childhood. We had a boat. We would go out in Long Island Sound, and I would dive off the boat, and I would also water ski off the boat. Everything was very happy um, while my mother was alive. But after she died, I suffered this grief and this hurt. And what changed me was I knew what it was to hurt, and I didn't want anyone else to hurt. And so it made me very sensitive to other people's needs, and I wanted to help. And I actually wanted to become a nurse, and I had volunteered at a local hospital. But my dad remarried, and my stepmother said to me, Karen, I was a nurse. You'll never be a nurse. You don't have what it takes. And so she persuaded my father not to send me to nursing school. So just like that, my dream was shattered. But it showed that I wanted to help by being a nurse. And I didn't become a nurse. I studied business administration and got a job as a consumer promotions manager for the Warner-Lambert company. Um, I was in charge of developing sweepstakes and couponing events for Schick, and also Listerman mouthwash, which was, a far cry from offering help to those in need. But anyhow, fate intervened one day because I was on my way to a meeting in the city, and I was about to pass a homeless woman who I had passed before. She sat out in front of Grand Central Station, and she always looked sad. She was elderly, probably in her late 70s, and she always looked down. She was depressed. And this time, I, for some reason, I just couldn't pass her by. So I ran across the street and into a store and bought her a ham and cheese sandwich and an orange juice. And when I came back, now I had never talked to anybody who was homeless or anybody on the street, but somehow this woman got to me. And so I handed her the sandwich and the orange juice, and she said, Thank you. God bless you. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday. And she reached out her hand to mine, and I took her rough, callous hand in my hand, and it was just really, really something. We talked, and she told me a little bit about her life, and I told her a little bit about mine. The visit was no longer than 15 minutes, but it made a big impression on me. So when I got home, I told my two sons about Millie, and they said, let's go into New York and find more people like Millie. So we did, and we got to know people in Port Authority Bus Terminal, Abe and Arthur and Lucille and so on. And we would go in every other Sunday for almost 2 years. And we got to know these people well. And so I invited them back to my house for Thanksgiving dinner. Now, I'm not a very good cook, and I never ever cooked a Thanksgiving dinner.
That is that is a huge undertaking. Not only that
Yeah,
you opened your home, but that you were willing to
I
cook
know,
a meal. But that's so
huge undertaking.
beautiful.
But I didn't think about it. It's just something I wanted to do. But then the neighbors came to support me. Bill Harrison, who was a bond trader on Wall Street, cooked the turkey. Other neighbors made the side dishes. So then they arrived, and of course, my two children were there, and I had one of the best Thanksgiving dinners. It was so authentic and real.
I love how many people were at your home? How many people did you invite?
8,
Eight
and
people.
yeah, 6 showed up.
Six showed
Yeah,
up. Out of it,
yeah,
did you find out why the other two didn't attend? Did you by chance see them after? And do you know why they didn't show up?
yeah, yeah. They just, I don't know, maybe they just felt awkward coming on the bus and everything. So I still continued to see them when I went into New York. But
Understood.
anyhow, then from there, I decided to volunteer locally. And that's where I met families who were homeless because you don't see them on the street. So I volunteered at shelters and talked to families who had been living in their cars. And I thought, does the religious community know? So I planned a conference on family homelessness, and I expected 100, but 200 people showed up. And right there, I knew it was a good thing. And so the conference was wonderful. It was educational, inspirational. I didn't talk at all, really. Um, but at the end, I said, if we stay together and work together, people like Wendy, that was a homeless woman who spoke, will have a home. And so then that launched. So from there, I quit my job at Warner-Lambert, and I founded Family Promise as a way of helping people. And I just couldn't quit my job because I didn't have the money to support myself. But two angels helped me and made it possible. First, my father bought me a house, and second, Morris Bolsky, a respected friend, donated provided the financial support equivalent to a salary. So there, it just enabled me to create this wonderful family promise where hundreds of volunteers would be involved, helping homeless families. And to date, we've helped 1 million men, women, and children. And, that's just phenomenal. So, how does all that relate to my mother's death? Well, I never thought much of the connection, but then I realized soon after that it was the pain that I experienced that I became very sensitive to other people's pain and the idea that people could be homeless and have no support. I just had to act and ended up creating Family Promise, which is a real blessing to the families in the program, but also to the volunteers. So there was a silver lining, I'd say. My mother's death, and it was embedded a gift, um, a seed that would be bloom later, which I had no idea of. So, um, yeah, that was a gift in a way that my heart
That
enabled me
shifted
to.
completely, yeah, changed the trajectory of your life, but also the no's that you also received along the way of not being able to pursue some of your other dreams ended up also shifting your road, right? You wanted to be an ice skater and a swimmer, then that didn't end up going that way. Then you wanted to be a nurse and that was said no. Then you end up in a corporate type job, which gives you also the experience of running an organization too, that then
Yes,
leads for you to
you're
then be
absolutely
able to
right.
running this nonprofit. So every little sometimes they say, a door closes and a window opens or another
Yeah,
door opens along
exactly.
the way, right? You had several of those shifting in your trajectory, but overall, the goal of your life was always to serve others, and you were able to accomplish it, just not in
Yeah.
nursing but now in this. So it's just so beautiful. Let's talk about the stigma that there is in homelessness, and just really how marginalized the homeless community is from society. Can you talk about
Well,
that,
I
and
mean,
really, like, yeah.
there's people that are chronically homeless, and that's well, there's men can be men and women, but traditionally it's more men, and you see them on the city streets, lying on a piece of cardboard, maybe with a lunch by their side. Um, and then there are families who are homeless who you don't see because they want to keep their children, out of sight. So they're living in shelters if they can find a shelter bed, or they're in their cars, or they're doubling or tripling up with friends. So the homeless families are largely invisible. But that means when they're homeless, they could be living with friends for a while, and then in a shelter, and then maybe in their car, whatever. But Family Promise helps families, and we were able to not only provide shelter for them, but to provide the support and to help them find housing and jobs. And the healing relationship came from the volunteers and the guests. We call homeless families guests. Um, just the love really helped heal them. But yeah, the homeless population is really divided between the chronically homeless um, and those that you don't see, homeless families who are doubled or tripled up with friends.
I love that you said that that love is really the that connecting, seeing them as human beings, because and you did that when you first saw Millie, right? You're walking by somebody that you might have walked several times, but actually seeing her, really
Yeah.
connecting with her, and at the simple act of getting a sandwich and a juice, or what, and then that spending of the time with her, really, that
Mhm.
was even the most meaningful transformation too, that so many of us do have, that time of being able to sit down with someone and hear their stories, yet we don't do. um and I don't know if it's the fear. I think I would say that in my case, a lot of times is that fear, right, of the not knowing of,
Right.
is this person in a situation in which, if I sit here, is it safe for me, or whatever it is. So what would you say to someone that is walking down the street and see someone? What would you say is the best thing we can do in those situations, of what you've heard of feedback from others that have experienced homelessness, of those acts of kindness?
Mhm. Well, first see them, smile, if they're looking at you, but you just have to sort of assess the situation. If somebody is screaming and yelling and is wild, then you're not going to go near them. Probably dangerous. But if there's a man lying on a subway crate, say, and he's awake and he looks at you, and then you would say, "Hi, how are you?" and see what he says. And then you might get him, and you could say, "Would you like something to eat?" And then if he says yes, you can get him something to eat and leave it beside. So just go about it slowly. You just have to use your intuition too.
I love that you're saying you're in, yeah, using your, being wise, using your intuition, and like you said, in that if you're feeling called and pulled like you did that time that you met Millie, and then there is a reason of why you're being pulled to not
Right.
look away, right? So following that little tap on your shoulder of the intuition or something greater than yourself that's kind of guiding you in that direction. Hi, I just wanted to take a quick pause and ask that if this episode is speaking to you, I'd love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. Just go to my website, Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between, and you will be receiving some of my newsletters. I send every probably couple of weeks. Also, if someone has popped into your mind and you feel that this is something they would resonate with, please send them this episode right now because it may just be what they needed to hear. Now, let's get back to the show. Let's talk about your book, Meant
Okay.
for More. What was it that sparked your desire to write this book?
Just because I was seeing so much pain among the homeless population, but I was seeing so much love coming from the volunteers, and then also from the guests. And I just wanted to talk about how your pain can have a silver lining and actually be something that can be used to help people. So Meant for More is about people who say, yes, I have this house. They have a vacation house, maybe if they're lucky, but there's still something more. They can't identify what that something more is that they want in their life. So they try to fill it with acquiring things like, expensive clothing, jewelry, lavish vacations, but they're still left with this sort of empty feeling that there should be something more. And so the book talks about finding that something more, and they find that if they just be and relate to people authentically and reach out and help others by reaching out, they find that they found that something more in their life, and that it's very free and it's very authentic. It could be picking up the newspapers and piling up on your neighbor's front porch, or, making dinner for somebody who has just come home from the hospital. It doesn't have to be anything grand, like starting an organization, but it means going outside yourself, and that's when you find happiness is something more in your life. So that's why I wrote the book.
I love it. And in the book, you share also stories about people that have been impacted by a family
Yes.
promise. Can you share with us one of these stories and just of the journey of one of the people that you know, or even I don't know if you ever saw Millie again, for example, or any of the people that you met along the way?
Yeah. Well, Hope is somebody who was served by Family Promise, and she was a young woman, and she had two kids, and she was a waitress, and everything was going fine in her life until it wasn't. She woke up one morning and she couldn't see. It looked like there was frost on a windshield, but she got the kids dressed for daycare. But then she realized she really couldn't see. It was dangerous, so she got to her job as a waitress, and she, just couldn't see. And the social worker came and said, "I have somebody who can help you." She was from Norwest Cap, And so she was, and First Hope was reluctant to go into Family Promise, but the social worker said, well, what choice do you have? And so she finally agreed to go into Family Promise. And she said she met the nicest people um, and in the world. And she said they believed in her more than she believed in herself. And that gave her the hope. And, and she also met somebody who helped her get a job at Verizon, which was a much better job. And so then she was back on her feet, and now she speaks for us at different events. And she's gone on to volunteer for Family Promise, speaking at events. And then she met a wonderful man, Bo, and they got married. And she has a great place. She's in a great place now. And Hope has gained lifelong friends who care about her. She was introduced to a community, and the community of volunteers embraced her. So, yeah, so here was someone who could have otherwise become homeless, on the streets or whatever. But because of volunteers and because of Family Promise, she got back on her feet.
And it's what you're saying is so important because it was a social worker that then referred her to you guys because in that moment, yes, her life suddenly changed. She goes blind basically, right? She cannot
Right.
continue doing the job that she was having and to not know what to do, but at the same time, not knowing where to go. So when people know about organizations and are able to then refer people to where they can get the help is so important. It's so important to get the word out there. That's another way of serving is to be able to get the word out there that communities like this exist where people can get the support they need in these processes that they go through. And we all go through different challenging times in life. Not everybody experiences homelessness, but everybody experiences grief in some shape or form or changes in their life, and people being around there to support you is so important. What you mentioned then of then Hope now being part of the community and now also serving with now Family Promise, is this a very common occurrence
Oh,
that
it's
people that
fairly
have been
common.
helped
Yeah.
end up being
Yes, they
helping?
do.
Yeah.
They do. They do want to come back and help and volunteer. And so many of the former guests serve on the boards of local affiliates and they volunteer and, they want to give back. Not all of them, but some of them, a sizable number, I'd say 20%, you know, want to give back and they do. There's something about that, like, again, when they heard and found a place that nurtured them, they wanted to give that back.
To somebody else.
I'd like to talk about
Yeah,
something else, another kind
please.
of loss that I experienced, which
Please do.
was, yeah, I was in Miami Beach and I was about to have a cryotherapy appointment. And I do you know what cryotherapy is?
Yes,
Yeah.
cold. Mhm.
Extremely cold
Yes.
therapy, and you're in the chamber for about 3 minutes. Um, and I had done it about 30 times, both in Miami Beach and in Summit, New Jersey. And so when I got to the desk, they said I had a new attendant, but she'd been there 4 weeks, but she has been well trained. And so I thought, well, okay, that's fine. It's sort of simple. You open the chamber door, you set the temperature, and you help the person in. And it's supposed to last 3 minutes, but at 1 minute, I guess I said, and I don't remember this, I said, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm so cold. So she came around to the back of the door and she opened it up, but she didn't stand in front of the door to help me. And I was frozen like a popsicle. And I fell out and I hit my head. And that caused a spinal cord injury. And I had no feeling from the neck down initially, but now I've grown to have feeling in my legs and my arms. I can't walk, but I get around in a wheelchair and I do everything else. And I guess I could have grieved that loss. Um, I don't know, really, I did and I didn't because life is just the same. How I get around has changed, but I'm still Karen. I'm very positive. I always have been. And, it was at that time that I was able to finish my book, Meant for More. I learned to paint. I'm an artist. You may see some of my paintings behind me. Yeah. And I did that before the accident, of course. But I thought now I'm right-handed, and my right hand is the weakest. Arm is the weakest part of my body, but I can paint with my left hand holding the brush in a certain way. It's not as fluid. It's hard. I have somebody help me mix the paint. But I found a new way of expressing myself, which I really like. I'll show you a painting that I did with my left hand. Jen's going
I
to get
want to
it
see it.
for me.
Yes, please do. Thank you for sharing that because, it's so interesting because here, as we started this interview, if it's okay that I just share candidly, I did not know that that you had this. I didn't see it in your bio that you had
Yeah.
had an injury. I did not know
Mhm.
that. And then I'm coming on to you and I see Jen. And so then it's this thing. I'm like, oh, do I ask her? Do I not?
Oh,
Those
yeah.
type of
No, I want
situations.
to share that
I'm
because
so glad
that
that
was,
you
again, a
shared.
tragic loss. But
Yes,
um,
no, that is still help the ability to do something that you used to be able to do is still
yeah,
it's a huge major grief and acknowledging that is huge.
yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that
Oh,
here
yeah.
with the audience and sharing again, you always share the silver linings. This happened how many years ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago, and it
Mhm.
shifted your life. So I'd love to see the painting. The
Painting.
audience will
Okay.
probably, I'll use
Okay.
this clip if people want to see it. You could see, beautiful. So it
Yeah,
comes,
it's
yeah.
not
So you
finished
went
yet.
from, yeah, because then it's like you have behind you some that are more like the realistic type of paintings, and this one has that more like expressionistic kind of,
Impressionism, yeah.
right?
Which
Impressionist,
my
yeah.
other, which my other paintings have too, but this more so
This
because,
more, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Because of the
yeah,
brush strokes being thicker a little bit of I'm not an artist.
yeah,
I'm not that type of
yeah,
an artist. So I can't.
yeah.
I even messed up there saying
I'm still
expressionist
working on
instead
it.
of impressionist. The It's beautiful, and so to be able to shift and to still do what you love, just
Mhm.
changing. You
Yeah,
always have
I
shown that resilience.
yeah. The only thing that I don't, how I get around has changed. I'm in a wheelchair, but everything else is the same. I'm still the positive person that I've always been. And, I have two grown sons and five grandchildren. I see them regularly. And my wonderful assistant, Jen Rustum, makes life so happy. And she helps me with so many different things, including the painting. Um, yeah, so life is good. It hasn't changed. And one of the things that the physical therapist said to me, you're so positive, you're this and that, and meaning that a lot of them are people who suffer a spinal cord injury, just give up, and I can't see doing that because life is good and it's still. I have ways to adapt.
I think too, you've seen evidence of people that have been in their lowest in their life through the years of what you've been doing and how their life has been able to turn around in some of their lowest points of their life. And you yourself were able to do that, experiencing the grief of the losing your mom at such a young age, and seeing that you're capable of. You have evidence of that in your own life,
Mm.
that it shifts the way that you approach things. I think that when we have evidence, by either we see others that are able to achieve it,
Mhm.
or even in our own journeys that we don't even realize, I think it
Yeah.
gives that hope, right? That we are able to hold on to, I think, in some shape or form, and have that positive outlook like you do. What a beautiful and inspiring story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And how is it to be now the one that is the one also receiving that? You've been the one serving others, and now you are
That's
able
right.
to allow yourself to be helped, right? Because you have to use the help of others around you. What is it to be on this receiving end of being helped rather than being the one to
Well,
help?
it's really beautiful because I consider everybody who helps me, the aides, the therapists, Jen, like my extended family. So I always have somebody with me, and I have a good team of aides, and they really are like family. So it's not hard to receive. I have no, I mean, there's certain things I can't do, like I can't reach the top of my head. I can't really brush my teeth. There's so much. If I have an itch somewhere, if I can't reach it, I have to ask for help. But because I really like, well, everyone around me who's helping me, it's not a problem. It's just not a problem. Because I guess I accept my situation. I accept it, but yet I do a lot with PT, and I can now walk with a specialized walker that has a platform in front of it where I can rest my arms, and I'm able to walk, 50 yards, and that's encouraging. So I keep seeing, different improvements, but I'm not waiting for the day that I walk to be happy. I'm happy now, you know. I'm happy now.
I love that. I love that. It's like we're
Yeah,
always we're always with this idea of like, when I get this
yeah,
house, then I'll be happy. When I get the perfect spouse, I'll be happy. When I have this child, instead of just the embracing of the now, and
yeah. The now is very
the now,
important, to
the
enjoy the
now.
now.
I
Yeah.
love that, and I love that you are
Just so
sharing
for
that.
some reason I'm able to do that, and it's a blessing.
What a
Yeah. So.
beautiful lesson for us to hear your story, to really be
Mhm.
able to embrace the now, and being able to be vulnerable, to know when to ask for help and receiving help. A lot of us struggle, especially when we're, grieving or going through hard times. Sometimes it's hard to reach out for somebody listening to this podcast right now. They may not be in the exact situation that you have experienced, but even just the fact of
Mhm.
maybe if they've experienced some type of grief, and somebody maybe messages them asking if it's okay to bring a meal, and they may say, no, thank you, I'm okay. But
Yeah.
really they do want it, or they do want
Right.
the company, or they do want somebody to go out on a walk for them because they're not feeling that
You
great
have to
yet.
allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Yes, because in that vulnerability is that you're able to really connect with others too. Yes, it's so beautiful. Thank you. Karen, I before we share with people how they can get your book and be able to, even if they're curious about serving and volunteering with Family Promise or with any organization, and we can give those details also, websites up in the show notes. Is there something I have not asked that you want to share with the listeners?
Just know that things change. If you're going through a difficult time now, um, nothing is forever. And like if I had been really down after my mother's death, or even after my accident, and given up, if you just wait, things will change. Nothing stays forever. So even if you're in the pit of misery, that's not how it's always going to be. It may not be easy to see, but it will change. So hang on and, continue your journey. And yeah,
Hold
that's
on to
what I have
hope.
to say.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hold on to hope that something will change. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Karen. And Karen, the best way to get your book and
Yeah.
to reach Family Promise, what would that
Yeah.
be?
Well, first I'll show you a picture of my book.
Okay.
Well, I'll show you the book. Jen is going to hold up the book.
Meant for more, following your heart and finding your purpose.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
you.
And so you can get the book through Barnes and Noble, Amazon, bookshop.com.
Perfect. And then Family Promise, the website is family, I think it's just
familypromise.org.
familypromise.org. Yeah, familypromise.org, and you can find out your local chapters to be able to help as well, or donate on the website, or go and
Yeah.
volunteer
What, Jen?
There are 43 states.
43 states.
in
Yeah.
43 states.
States.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you
And
can find if a family promise is near you. Yeah.
And if you're listening
Volunteer.
to this and you are experiencing a hard time and you're feeling you need that support yourself, now you know that there is organizations like Family Promise out there that you can reach out and they can be a helping hand. So thank you so much again, Karen, for
Oh, you're
being on the
welcome,
podcast and
Karen.
sharing your story. And this was Karen Olson. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you again so much for choosing to listen today. I hope that you can take away a few nuggets from today's episode that can bring you comfort in your times of grief. If so, it would mean so much to me if you would rate and comment on this episode. And if you feel inspired in some way to share it with someone who may need to hear this, please do so. Also, if you or someone you know has a story of grief and gratitude that should be shared so that others can be inspired as well, please reach out to me. And thanks once again for tuning in to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. Have a beautiful day.